know that one of the reasons why this room is packed is because of our Neighborhood Matters Awards, and we're hoping that this new year will bring a full house every third Saturday from 10 until 12. And we wanted to be able to have, standing room only in here because of the important work that the Atlanta Planning Advisory does. For those who do not know what our mission is, if you look toward the back of the program, you will see what our mission is. And so there are three things that I like to point out about what our mission focuses on. The first is that we focus on service. We focus on supporting NPUs. We also support on being the citizen voice for the city of Atlanta by acting as a liaison or an advisement board between the Atlanta City Council and the citizens of Atlanta. We also provide support for NPUs when it comes to getting information to them or programming such as the awards today, as well as the Citizens Engagement and Community Day that we do at Zoo Atlanta. So we are very excited about those two programs, and they have, over the years, have served us well. We've gotten really good feedback about citizens, partners, volunteers coming together to talk about what it means to be involved in their government. And so we're excited about this year, and we're excited about the new chairs and who are delegating new delegates and who are becoming delegates. And we hope that you will join us in this area of service. It is rewarding, and we hope that you will join us and pull up your sleeves and let's work for our neighborhoods. As it relates to the grant program, I did submit our grant, and so that is in. Over the past, I would say 2 or 3 years, what we've been focusing on with that funding is to support the neighborhood awards, of course, and then also the citizens engagement program. We also have some regular operating general fund operation dollars that we use, everything from using social media, writing, bringing on a writer to help us with our electronic newsletter this year, and continue to maintain our website. If you go to www.apabatlanta.org, you will see there will be a landing page there. If you have not signed up to be a part of our e-news, our calling post, and our text messages, please do so. That way you can keep abreast of all of the things that are going on with the city of Atlanta as well as APAB. On the back of the agenda, you will find our 2018 calendar. Right now, I have that this is a draft. So I'd like for the delegates to look over it very carefully in your leisure. And as we move forward in this new year, there will be a few changes toward the end of the year. We may have to change the Citizens Engagement and Community Day. It may be in October this year, like it was last year, or it may be in September like it normally is, but we'll keep you all posted. We're also looking at, this is something that we're thinking about and we'll probably bring to the February meeting, and this is an opportunity to possibly move our awards to November and to actually have a break in December. When I started working, serving the NPU system some time ago, I thought that it was law that every NPU had to meet every month. And then I found out that's not true. We have some NPUs that actually take off 2 months. And I'm sure it's well deserved. And so we're going to look at that opportunity where we can possibly move our neighborhood planning, our awards up to November, and then have a break for December to get ready for the following year. So those are just some options there. At this time, I would like to go ahead and, do we have any new delegates to arrive. Okay. So we're going to, at this time, we're going to move into public comment. I will be extremely strict this year, 2018. I think I was really lenient last year. I'm going to try to have as much patience as possible, but I want to make sure that all of us respect each other's time and that we're going to take 3 minutes per person for public comment. I can't believe that no one's running up to the microphone. Spoke too soon. Mr. Howard?
You probably scared some folks away that welcome this meeting to the public comment. Then how? So where's the people we could get a time again? And
3 minutes per.
Yeah, I don't want to see much in Madam Chair, I think Jim Snyder had a very good comment, and I think when we opine on statements that Jim Snyder makes, we really need to have the bylaws in front of us. So if any of you have your bylaws, you'll see that the process is not as we describe. Past practices don't change the bylaws. And just to have some, as Jim said, I'm going to kind of repeat that, while somebody's looking at the bylaws. We just can't have people come and just state who they are. Let's just take NPUR. We had a gentleman that came a couple of months ago and said he was from NPUR, nobody checked. But now you're saying that he's out and that Ricardo Jacobs is in and Harold Harnett are in. Ricardo Jacobs doesn't happen to be the new chair of NPUR. Antonita Robinson is. So how Ricardo Jacobs fits into the process, I don't know. Harold Harnett, after his campaign, has not appeared at an NPUR meeting since he came in number 2 in the District 11 election. So how he got to be on our rolls as the representative? Let me just end this way. The only valid person you have as a representative of NPUR is Ben Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. I want to make a point of correction publicly in that on the roll call sheet it had Ricardo Jacobs and it should have been Alfred White. And we already know that Mr. Alfred White is the delegate for where he was the alternate for NPUR last year. And he is now the delegate for R this year. And Harold Hartnett is back as the alternate at this time. Okay, thank you. Mr. Ross?
Jennifer, if I may, the bylaws state that the failure to provide the information in a timely manner will result in the ineligibility. They do not define timely manner, and therefore that is at the discretion of the chair.
Thank you. Mr. Ross?
Yes, Terry Ross at PUT. Committee on Council did meet this morning for APAB. Committee on Council for APAB met this morning. I just want to share one of the projects we're taking on for 2018 is to...
Mr. Ross, this is public comment, we're not doing committee reports.
No, I'm not doing a committee report, but I'm sharing the project with you. Is what I'm doing.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
And I wanted to take this opportunity to do that now, if that's okay.
Sure, and no action, recommendations, or anything at
Like
this
I
point?
said, I just wanted to share the information.
Great,
That's all.
thank you.
All right, what Committee on Council will do is assess, evaluate, and resolve the participation in APAB and in the NPUs. Through that committee, we're going to do it through the Committee on Council. However, it will be open to any and all participants of APAB if they wish to contribute. I just wanted to share that because that's going to be a big project and we hope it has a great impact on this body.
Awesome, thank you so much, Mr. Ross.
Good morning. Vernell Thomas, citizen at large. And I rise to speak to 2 items. One is the Atlanta training the Atlanta Training Commission. Those applications are being accepted for the new class, and I'm hoping that we will have participants to make a commitment to that. That's one thing. The second thing I rise to talk about the aging of Atlanta. And I am hoping that APAB will consider working with the Aging Commission and others to make sure that we have our attention on the aging in Atlanta and all over this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Mr. Toomer?
Ms. Thomas, can you explain if there is how that application works? Is there a fee? Is it free? Is it subsidized or anything like that?
The city council last year, and the fee is free, but the city has a budget that it is working with the Carl Vinson Institute of the University of Georgia that provides the trainers for this. And the training, Atlanta Planning and Training Advisory Board is responsible for implementing this particular program. I do recommend that we add an assessment piece to the Training Advisory Board, which we worked very hard over the last 3, 4, 5 years to get that started. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did, and I thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Robinson?
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee. I just wanted to make a few comments regarding the Citizen Howard's this morning's diatribe. I am the current chair of NPUR. If I have failed in any way of not probably notifying the committee that Arthur White is my designee and Harold Hartnett is the alternate, then I'm sorry, but we have had conversations. But if I need to do that in written form, please forgive me. I am new in this role, and I want to say for 2018, I don't know who will be chair 2019, but for 2018, Ben Howard in no way represents NPUR in any capacity. He should never come before APAB and represent himself as such. He is not a member in good standing. We have made this clear to council. We have made this clear to him, but we have made it clear to the city legal department. If there are any questions, I trust that each of you know how to contact me. I will be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. We appreciate it.
Point of order, I believe we have a quorum with Mr. Dana Scott from NPU. Why?
Yes, we do. Getting ready to, we're going to do another roll call.
I think actually, we already have a representative from that meeting.
Mr. McCord.
Mr. Cord?
Yeah. And then also, my understanding is, and someone correct me, Mr. Jim, Antonia Robinson is here. She's the chair, which makes her automatically a delegate. She can vote because she is the chair. And so if that's the case, then she would be number 13 or 14, and we do have a quorum. And my bylaws chair is saying that's 100% correct. And also, Mr. Russian is here as well, and he is the chair of the MPP. So he is Russian. You can just add Russian. He's not the chair. So is here.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
not to belabor the issue, but I think it's something that we do need some consternation that we're experiencing in terms of warring delegates, et cetera, is squashed. Is that if the APAB Oversight Organization has a list of delegates that were given to them, that they should provide it to us before the first meeting of the first of the year, so that we will not be shooting in the dark that would be a request that I would ask for the oversight of the APAB organization.
Okay, that who would give us the, okay, planning, okay. All right, very good. Mr. Sean? Okay, add that to your to-do list. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, so, for sake of time, I don't think we need to do another roll call. I think we have a quorum, so we're going to back up to our resolution that's before us. If you are a delegate, there are copies up front. There are also some extra copies for the public who would like one up front. It's a resolution that we'll be voting on. This is not the first it's come before us. We also have a FYI resolution. At this time, I'm going to turn in this section over to Mr. Jim Martin, who is the chair of Community Development and Human Resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, you have two resolutions. Both have come out of the CHR committee. One is for your information. We expect it to be a business item at a future meeting, perhaps next month. The other, and if you have any comments on that, please do communicate those to me. The other is a resolution that we have brought before this body, before the executive committee, and discussed in our committee several times. It is a resolution calling upon the city to create zero displacement character areas in the comprehensive development plan. The concept here is both aspirational and potentially enforceable. The idea being that we currently have a policy, or we currently have several policies that are involved in the creation of new affordable housing units, but what we lack is one that is involved in the preservation of existing affordable housing units, and that our primary concern should be with the total number of units. I can read the full text of the ordinance for those who are interested, or just provide that summary and add to it the fact that this is not in any way intended to address the issue or the problem in its totality, but rather a very small portion of that issue. So if the flaw that you find with this, and it certainly is a flaw with this, is that there are problems that it does not address, that's why. So with that, unless somebody wants me to read the entire text of it, you should have it before you. I can answer questions, if there are any. Jim Schneider?
Jim Schneider, NPUE. I believe this is discussed at the meeting I attended with you, and I guess my big problem is I need to see a map to see where in the city this might apply, because without that I have no knowledge of what impact it would or would not have. And since a lot of these things are fairly general types of things, such as units per acre, I'm not sure how this is calculating. If you've got parks, recreation, streets, what parts of that are included in units per acre or not. I just think it's premature. It may be the greatest thing since sliced bread, but until I know where it impacts and how it's being calculated, I'm going to be forced to vote against it. Thank you.
Okay, in answer to that, it is intended to be qualitative and not quantitative. So where numbers are in fact provided, those are provided as examples of the format with which such numbers would be presented, not the actual numbers. So where it says, for example, 60% or for example, 50%, it's not saying 50% or 60% or 8 units per acre is the number. What it's saying is that this is the format in which such a number should be presented, and the actual numbers as well as the boundaries that would exist on a map obviously would require a great deal more information that we have at our disposal, and would be something for the planning office to address in formulating whatever legislation would result from this resolution.
Jim?
Other questions?
Yeah.
Another question.
Very good. Yeah, no.
To follow up on that, this does sound like it requires a text amendment to the zoning ordinance or to the CD Comprehensive Development Plan. I'm not sure which, that it would, or maybe both, in which case it needs to be suggested as to who it's directed to. But I do think with the city having basically one thing of GPS and computerized GIS, that was the one I was looking for, that they ought to be able to provide a map that would indicate the general areas where this would be applicable. And so people would have some sense of whether it's going to apply to their neighborhood or not. And again, I don't want to speak against your intent for what you're trying to do. I just think it needs to be more specific, not necessarily every square inch.
Great. In a qualitative sense, if you would like to know whether it applies to your area or your neighborhood or your home for that matter, the question of whether or not those are areas that already have a significant portion of affordable housing would really be the issue. And although we may not have those numbers or those lines on a map, I mean, I think most of us sort of generally have an idea of what home values and rents are in our areas, and therefore at least a qualitative idea of whether or not those areas are in fact currently affordable. And this is only intended to address areas that are in fact currently affordable. Al?
Yes, Al Bartel, NPUJ. Thanks, Jim, for being chairperson on this and doing the lion's share of the work, and to the delegates as well as the public. As chairperson of NPUJ and as an advocate for affordable housing, I speak in support of this resolution for the following reasons. Reason number one, it is a participation document. We're all clear about site plans and the kind of data and information that needs to be in a site plan, including all the technical language. This is not that document. This document is a public policy participation document. What has been missing for all 25 of the NPUs is a public participation format. In the area of affordable housing, there's no definition of affordable housing. There is no one-size-fits-all, and what is mandated and is needed is a framework for public participation. The design of the NPU system fits that criteria. This is the first phase of that kind of participation. It is a public policy document. The kind of documents for projects that includes the technical language, the site plan, and the mapping is not a part of this document. Those documents can only come after public participation and community engagement. This document meets the criteria for public participation. This document meets the criteria for community engagement. And this document meets the criteria for public policy management. So I encourage all of the delegates to vote for this resolution. The time has come, and I encourage all the public to look forward to participation with your neighborhood planning unit.
Any other questions?
Not so much a question, but a comment. My position, first of all, Terry Ross at PET. Okay, that's one way to silence me. Anyway, what I was going to say, when it comes to this resolution, as chair of MPUT, we will not support this resolution. And I have a couple of reasons. Number one, the initiative here in the city of Atlanta concerning affordable housing is mixed income communities. This does not do that. What this does is identify areas that are stated as being affordable housing areas and zero displacement from those areas. But that is not the intent of the city of Atlanta nor the mayor. Is to be mixed income communities, not warehousing the poor, not keeping the poor where they are. Why can't there be affordable housing in Buckhead? Why can't there be affordable housing in Virginia Highlands? And so, for that reason, I do not support this resolution, and I ask the other delegates to vote with me against this resolution.
Okay, in answer to that, I would say that you misunderstand the intent and the nature of the resolution. As I said before, this is not intended to address the problem in its totality, but rather a portion of the problem, and that portion of the problem is the preservation of existing affordable housing. So, although it would be great if we had affordable housing in Buckhead, we have to create it, we're not going to preserve it. And so in those areas where we already do have affordable housing, the question is how do we preserve it? And we attempted in drafting this to address some of your concerns in the way that these areas are defined, which is that we don't want to create a warehouse for the poor. We want to keep open the opportunity to redevelop within these areas and to redevelop in ways that are in fact mixed income. And the way that we therefore go about drawing the boundaries of the areas is we consider the existing density of dwelling units. So if it's too dense, we don't want to say we need to preserve this because then we're preserving essentially a warehouse for the poor. If it doesn't have redevelopable lots, empty area, we don't want to do that because then there's no opportunity for development without displacing units or without having to take away units and therefore replace them. And so I guess my point is that I think you misunderstand the purpose and the nature of the resolution.
Well, and I may misunderstand the purpose and the nature of the resolution, but when I'm looking at it here in writing, what it says, what I read is they keep the poor people where they are, create affordable housing for those people so that they can remain in the areas where they are. We all know that the solution to affordable housing is training, education, and opportunities so that people can make more money. And then that eliminates the problem with affordable housing. Housing becomes affordable if your income is increased. What I'm reading here is that where the areas that have been deemed affordable, however you define it, let's keep those folks there. And for that reason, I have a fundamental problem with this resolution.
Okay, again, I guess I think you're misreading the nature of it. Your first point of the solution to affordable housing is bringing up incomes is a fine point, but that's considered in the fact that affordability criteria are based on area median income, so that if the median rises, what constitutes affordability can be more expensive. Right? And that really sort of factors into all of the city's affordable housing policy, because all of the city's affordable housing policy is based on this area median income notion. And then as regards to keeping people where they are, we're not proposing to build walls, we're saying don't kick them out, which is not really the same thing.
Well, aren't you proposing building an economic wall?
No, not at all.
No.
What we're proposing is that if a unit is affordable and some development would demolish that unit, it would need to be replaced somewhere within that area with at least one affordable unit, such that the total number of affordable units remains the same, and then the area is defined in a way that makes sense for the community and for the economy. Essentially, yes. Which I guess my point is that it was very much intended to be sort of the opposite of creating a warehouse for the poor, which is what you seem to be interpreting it as. And if it fails in some regard, I'm sorry.
I think we're getting into a point where we're trying to resolve something. I think Terry has stated his position for a reason, and we're not trying to change his mind, or we may be, but not at this time. I believe
trying to inform the group,
yeah.
But
I believe we've had 2 points that are showing for and against. And one of the things that I would say is that, in all fairness, I believe that this is the first step or the first stage, and we have to get more granular, and that is what this document is opening, a chance to become more granular and be more specific, along with working with planning and city council. It is not a finished product, and that's the thing. This is a growing document. It is not finished.
I absolutely agree. I just don't like the approach, is what I'm saying. I don't agree with the approach.
Again, we have noted that, and I think the public has noted your position as well as Al's position, and so at that point, I think we need to move to the next question.
Okay, I would add to that, just as a final note, should this resolution fail, I would hope that you would participate in drafting a revision to it that might succeed. should this resolution succeed, I would hope that you would participate in drafting a resolution that would augment it in the ways that you have mentioned.
Fair enough, I can do that.
Mr. Martin, Terry, in the interest of today's events, is it possible that we can table this resolution to our February meeting so that we can go ahead with the events for today? Because we do have a lot of people here that, come here with something special.
Agreed. No one has yet made a motion in any direction. If you would like to make a motion, you may.
All right, then I'd like to make a motion that. But the motion actually is that we table this to next month's meeting.
Defer to next
Yeah, we defer to next month's meeting when we have more discussion time.
Point of order. The motion is already on the floor. I believe that. The motion is already on the floor. I believe that the presenter can withdraw the motion rather than take and then stipulate that it will be brought up in the next meeting.
It's an agenda item.
Yeah, from a technical perspective, because this came out of committee, it does not require a second, and therefore it was, in essence, a motion itself, which was already seconded. From a procedural point, I see no issue with deferring this, and rather than voting twice, if there is a consensus for deferral, we might as well make that the first vote. Jim Schneider.
Jim Snyder, MPUE. I would prefer it to be tabled because I would want this to be sent out to all 25 MPUs. If we just defer it, that would tend to mean there's no action at all. And I think all 25 MPUs need to be able to read this, and if they are going to discuss it, do so.
There is actually a motion on the floor, so.
There is, what I'll do is, since there's a motion on the floor, I'm gonna go ahead and ask the question. However, in the meantime, I'll speak to what Mr. Snyder said.
Okay, I would amend the motion on the floor that if, the fact it is tabled, that the resolution be sent out to all 25 MPUs.
So I guess.
Point of order, again, the presenter does have the right to withdraw his motion.
Let's sort of
We
try
have
and
a motion.
expedite this without getting tangled up with
Yeah,
procedure. Jennifer's already sent this out to the list several times, which is the APAB list, which includes all MPUs. If you're proposing a means of communication other than that, please state it.
Yeah, but I did mention that this came to us twice last year as a draft, and then Mr. Martin introduced it as FYI, and so, but hey, we have a motion on the floor, and let's go ahead and, you ready for the question? Okay.
Point of order, the motion that is on the floor is Jim's motion. It is not.
I'm sorry, Eric. This is by way of expediency. If there is a consensus for deferral, then we would first vote on the motion to approve. It would be defeated. There would be a second motion to defer. We vote on that, and then we defer. If we skip the first step and vote on the motion to defer, we can move the meeting along more quickly without technically adhering to the letter of the law. That was my point earlier.
Defer or table.
So let me just make sure, point of clarification. You're voting on whether to defer and table first.
Okay, there was some question about the terminology here, defer versus table. My understanding was that the consensus was to consider this next month because we're busy this month, as opposed to table this because there are profound issues that need to be addressed in some way. If I'm mistaken about that,
Okay, so we're voting whether to defer it until next month's meeting, okay? All in favor of deferring the zero placement areas resolution until the February 17th meeting, please raise your hands. I will ask the recording secretary to count.
Very well, raise your hands high. One.
And only delegates.
Only delegates
Yeah,
can
one
vote.
vote for MBU,
One
if
vote.
you're an alternate and your delegates here don't vote.
One vote for NPU. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Okay, 13 in favor of. Okay, all not in favor of the motion, please raise your hand.
Madam Chair, I see no hands raised, 0.
Okay, any abstentions?
Madam Chair, 1 hand is raised, we have 1 abstention, 2 hands.
2 hands. Okay, that motion carries. Thank you very much. So we will add that, this resolution back on the agenda.